What's up, everybody? It's your favorite buttonfly jeans wearing nerd's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at Marvel Legends Deadpool Wave Part 1 of 3. For those who don't get the buttonfly reference, Rob Liefeld, creator of Deadpool, most known for his X-Force and New Mutants run on Marvel Comics, along with a bunch of characters in Image that looked like characters from Marvel Comics, did a 501 or buttonfly jeans commercial for Levi's back in the 90s. So yeah, this is who us geeks looked up to for a brief moment. Actually, he's a pretty cool guy. But this bit of business, out of sorts. Hey, I'm looking for a yellow shirt. I need a yellow shirt and a pair of jeans with cuffs around the feet. And I'm going to stand here like a jerk. That was back when comic book artists were rock stars. Much has changed. Anyway, I got this through Crashbox Customs. I suggest you do the same. Also, as a heads up, Crashbox is now carrying Mezco products. So if you're looking for any Mezco releases, hit them up as well. The link will be in the description. Let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start with Cable. So, he comes with 3 guns. One for all 3 of you. And they're all decoed the same, but at least they do have a deco, which is this like metallic finish to it, which does look nice. You have this big kind of very Rob Liefeld-esque gun. It does peg into his back. The problem with it is it sits a little too far off to one side. In my opinion, I would have preferred if you could have plugged it into the middle of his back and then sat it off to the side. If this had a peg instead of a port. So that's a little bit of a missed opportunity. Great sculpt work though, very much so, looks the part. Same with these. One's like a shotgun type, and then one is like a revolver type, both space agey. You also get a holster, which is nice. It only fits the shotgun, as far as I can tell, but it all works well because at least this way, you have a place to peg this gun, a place to put this gun, and then you have one trigger finger hand that can hold this gun. So all of the accessories work appropriately, which is nice. And now we can talk about the figure. Let's start with the head. I like the glowing eye effect. It's just a little piece glued in there, translucent yellow, but it looks good. I like the face sculpt. It looks good. It looks like it even might have some subtle shading, but it might just be the light throwing me off. We do have a nice scar effect paint around the scar, and then the eye is painted white. The eyebrows are sculpted. The grimace is sculpted and painted. I think there is some shading for like a 5 o'clock shadow, but I could be wrong. The hair is sculpted nicely, and it's painted nicely, but it doesn't sit properly on the face, which is a huge bummer. You see how off it is? You see where the sideburns should sit? Now, individual results will likely vary, but that sucks. Then you have this piece on the side of his head, very Rob Liefeld, but it looks good. Ball hinge head. Works beautifully, get the head all the way up to there and down to there, and like this little Rin Tin Tin thing he's wearing doesn't much get in the way, so that's nice as well. The Rin Tin Tin thing is a floating piece, but it looks fairly seamless, and then you have some nice paint on there, the blue and the reds. So I don't have a real issue with that. I think it's kind of a clever way to work around and not have to do some more sculpt work. I'm okay with it, honestly. The pouches here are washed. The pouches here are just sculpted. The bullets here are all painted. And the shoulder pads are painted. We have an ab crunch with even the shoulder pads on, get you 1 click down, 2 clicks up, and a waist swivel. Then we have the belt itself. The pouches are all shaded. Or actually, no, they're dry brushed. I guess these are dry brushed as well. I thought they were washed, but no, they're dry brushed. I'm sorry, I'm not on camera. So that's interesting. We have disc hinge shoulders. They're very tight, but you can get the arms up 90 degrees. Good grief. And then all the way around. Double hinged elbow. Great range there. Bicep swivel. No shading, it doesn't look like on the arm. But very nice sculpt work. The glove is a floating piece, but it works, so I'm okay with it. And then the wrists are on swiveled hinges. They swivel, and then they hinge up, down. And since it's a trigger finger hand, I think that works quite well. Same for this side, except we have the metallic arm, which does have like is made of like a metallic-esque plastic. Works and looks well. Then we have the pelvis, all the pants. There's no paint whatsoever, but they are sculpted nicely. T-jointed ball joints for hips, fairly limited. I don't know what's going on with Legends these days with the limited articulation, but that's what's going on there. And then forward and back, much better. And then we have the serial number in white on the inner thigh. Thigh swivel, it is cut right at the strap, so I like that. It helps hide the seam. I dig that a lot. And then we have the pouches that are all sculpted. Knee pad that's not painted, and then it's double jointed, so you get a good range. The boots are all sculpted nicely. You do get a shin swivel, and then you get all sorts of detail on those boots that looks great, but they're not painted. Ankle tilt up? No. Ankle tilt down? Yes. And rocker, that works. So there he is from the back. All in all, a pretty good effort. The hair, I'm probably going to have to perform surgery on at some point. It just looks too stupid. Next up, we have X-23. No accessories per se, but she does have her claws. I would imagine they are removable if you try hard enough, but I'm not going to do it because I prefer they stay stuck in. So, head sculpt is pretty interesting. It's very, it's very specific, so I feel like you kind of have to have her in an action pose. It would have been nice to have an additional head so that you could have her more in a stoic pose if you would have preferred. That would have been a nice accessory to include. This is one of those females where the head sits too far off the base of the neck and it ends up looking like a floating head a little bit. Paint job is nice. The black, the gray, the red lipstick, the white teeth, all of that looks very clean. The hair is black and sculpted well enough. We have flesh color paint added to the neck, which isn't the best, but the head covers most of it, so I'm ultimately okay with it. For the torso, all of the costume markings are all very clean, so I'm on board with that. We have a single ball peg for the abdomen or diaphragm joint. And that works well enough. Mostly you just get the swivel out of it, but you get a little bit of back and a slight bit forward. Disc hinge shoulders get you the whole range and all the way around. No bicep swivel. You do get a swivel at the elbow, which is... So it's a single jointed elbow. You can tell by looking at that. It's too tight and it wants to pop the arm out of the joint, so that's a bit of a bummer. Wrist swivel, hinge, in, out. In, out for this side too, which is good for the kind of clawed look. I'm on board. Floating belt, silver, red on accents, fairly clean. For the pant markings, it's always more complicated for them when they have to do it down the side of the figure, because that's where a lot of the seams are. It's where the seam in the torso is, and it's usually where the seam in the hip joint is. This is done fairly well. The flesh is not as well, but for the most part, it's done fairly well. Unfortunately, it's the black that they added the skin color onto for the waist. So the colors are a little inconsistent throughout between the face, between this and then this and then this. Like you can tell where the flesh was used as paint and then where it wasn't. I have an awful lot of flash paint around this joint here, which is kind of a bummer as well. So all of that is a little bit troublesome. The pant markings and paint is done fairly well. How does this one work? Okay, so we have a shin swivel. All right, so that'll all work fine. No problems. But I do feel like is this the same as Gwenpool? Because I feel like this is a little bit of those inverted legs as well. T-jointed ball joints for hips get you out to there, so not the best. Forward and back to there, which is fine. Thigh swivel, double jointed knee, shin swivel. The buckles are all painted silver, which is a nice touch. Ankle tilt up to there, down to there, and then the rocker. Now, getting all this lined up, let's get the suit lined up. That, not too bad. Not too bad. This one might work a little bit better because you have the shin swivel and you don't have to have everything quite as well lined up because the shin swivel's at a boot, so the boot can sit any which way, so it's going to work a little bit better. Whereas I feel like the Gwenpool had a lot that had to kind of line up between the knee pad and the kind of shin pad and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this works a little bit better than Gwenpool, but still has some issues, which is a little bit of a bummer because this is one of the ones I was looking most forward to, but all in all, not a terrible effort. Next up, we have Deadpool. He has 2 trigger finger hands, which is pretty cool because he comes with 2 swords. Or swords. Come on. Like, that's the kind of stuff that drives me nuts. Like, you're not going to give the guy any guns? I understand guns are a hot topic, but, I mean, a lot of these guys used very kind of space-age guns in the comics during this era. So, come on. They do fit in his sheaths or scabbards on his back. They don't rotate. They're kind of stuck in position. He can hold them, even though he has a trigger finger hand for no reason. He can hold them. And then the knives, I mean, the swords themselves are painted, at least the handles, and they're painted fairly well, but not 100%. So it's okay. And it would have been better if they didn't paint inside the diamond, you know, but that's just lazy, in my opinion. But he does hold them well, and they do fit in his scabbard. So let's continue. Let's not harp. The head, we have the eyes, which are sculpted well enough, and then the black paint, which is done fairly well, but not perfect, and then all the grimacing stuff, which is sculpted nicely. Head is on a ball hinge, so you get up to there, down to there, swivel. Not much on the confused dog look side, but you do get this floating piece. At least I think it's float. Yes, it's a floating piece for his collar. So it's not sculpted, but it ultimately works. You get this strap with the buckles painted, and that's about it. And it's connected to the belt, which is all sculpted well enough, and then the Deadpool insignia is sculpted and painted. You have a butterfly joint for the chest, which works fairly well, getting the shoulders all the way forward to there and back. A great range. And then you have a disc hinge for the shoulder that gets it up to there, down to there, bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, wrist swivel, hinge in out and in out. And he has swords, so I'm okay with that, but I also would have been okay if it was up down. It kind of works for both. We have an ab crunch that gets you forward to there, back to there, so that works quite well. All of the costume stuff is done fairly clean with the exception of that space right there. We have a waist swivel that works fairly well. The costume paint is done on the legs pretty clean. I'll give it to him there. Then we have the floating buckles, which is a softer plastic sitting there. Double jointed or T-jointed ball joints for hips, out to there, forward and back to there. Thigh swivel, double jointed knee, shin swivel, ankle tilt up, down, and rocker. And then we have these floating pieces for the ankles. So it's sort of lackluster, which is kind of a shame. It's fine. I think the accessories are poor choices. Everything else is like, it's okay. It'll do, you know, and it's very 90s if 90s Deadpool was your thing. So it's fine. The problem is, my main irritating gripe is that, like, this is a character that does use guns. He has 2 trigger finger hands for those guns. And then he has 2 swords for those hands. And I think that is just dumb. But all in all, the articulation works well. The sculpt is fine. It's nothing to write home about because they mostly use these floating pieces in order to get the job done. So it's nothing to write home about. And then if they nailed the paint, maybe, but the paint still isn't nailed. We get a little bit outside the lines there. We get a little bit outside the lines there. So when it's a very base figure like this, I kind of need the limited paint added to be sharp as a tack. And then last up, we have Domino, which is it's not an interesting choice per se, but it's an interesting design. While this whole wave is very 90s in terms of the Deadpool and Cable, this Domino is not 90s at all. So that's a little bizarre. She does come with these 2 guns, 2 space age guns with this sort of purple metallic finish to them, which do look good. No holsters for them, but she does have 2 trigger finger hands to hold 2 guns. It's like the genius was on board for this one. So she holds them just fine, as you saw in the opening footage. Her head is on a ball hinge. The head does sit a little too far off the neck, but the hair does hide it a good bit, so it works a lot better. The paint is sharp as a tack. We have like almost a green highlight on this. It's like a greenish black. Really sharp lipstick. The same is used for the eyes. The Domino eye patch is her signature thing. That's painted clean. Her hair is sculpted well. The ball hinge works fine. Gets her head down to there. Up to there. You do lose a little bit more of the suspension of disbelief with the upward look. But sitting in a resting pose, it should look fine. Swivel, you get all sorts of attitude with it, but it does look a little silly. You do get this floating piece here around her chest, which is sculpted well enough, and it sits nicely against it. The shirt design is all sculpted with the collar, and then the seams and wrinkles, all that looks good. We have the paint, which is done clean. feels like a double ball peg for the abdomen, which works tremendously well. We have disc hinge shoulders, which gets the arms all the way up. You get the swivel around. You get a single hinge for the elbow that gets you about 90 degrees, and then the swivel. And then you have a wrist swivel, hinge up, down on this side, and in, out on this side. So a couple options, which is fine, but I prefer up, down for guns. All right, then you have a sculpted belt on, which is nice. This loose floating belt has the silver paint on the buckle, which looks clean. The hips are double T-jointed ball joints, which get you all the way out to there. Forward to there, not much back, but I'm okay with that. And then you have a thigh swivel, a little tight on this one, nice on this one, double jointed knee pads are painted, shin guards are painted, and then you have the buckles, which would have been nice had they been painted. And then you have an ankle tilt up, an ankle tilt down, and the rocker. So this is what I want from them. This is a well done figure. We have clean paint, we have nice sculpt, we have a couple extra details, we have accessories with hands that make sense for them. This is how it should be done. Final thoughts wise, Cable's done fairly well with the exception of his hair, which may be an individual results will vary type of thing. I also wish that the gun would have pegged into the middle of the back so it didn't always look so off balance on his shoulder. It wouldn't have hurt to have some shading on the pants, but I don't want to go asking for too much. X-23's main issue is the paint matching between the skin tones on the arms to forearms to torso to face to neck. That's her main issue. Deadpool has accessories and hands that don't make sense for them, nor accessories that totally make sense for the character. He didn't come with a Build-A-Figure piece, so you should have thrown some extra accessories in there. That's what you did for the first one. It's what you should have done for this one. Domino's head sits a little too high off her neck, but that's a small price to pay for a figure that's done so well. The positives, though, are sort of in line across the board. Articulation works well. The sculpts are getting better and better. The paint, for the most part, is done fairly clean. We're getting some flair with the accessories, and we're getting cool character choices. All in all, I don't think any figure here is ridiculously bad or utter trash. I just think that some make some really slight, annoying, disappointing choices, while the Domino works fairly effective across the board. So I do recommend them. Just don't expect any life-changing figures here. It's just some fairly well done, straightforward figures with a few annoying elements along the way. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.